Hello, everybody. Welcome to the roundup. We call it Crystal. You're new here, but we call it the English roundup, and this is kind of like how we do our Spanish shows twice a week. This is kind of like that, but we do it every 2 weeks, and it's in English for our English-speaking audience. Today, we're going to be talking about the conditional green card, but before we get to that. It's Crystal's first time here, so I want to introduce her. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, Crystal. How is it going?
It's going pretty well. Yeah. Happy Wednesday.
Nice. And can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and like how long you've been practicing and which is your favorite case type is the question I would have for you.
Ooh, okay. So yeah, I'm the senior attorney at the law firm, and I've been practicing since 2010, November 2010. And I started off doing mostly civil rights and civil liberties type of work, lots of suing the government, especially Border Patrol, for human rights abuses along the border, and then left that to start doing private immigration practice and have been doing that for the last 9 years or so. So my favorite case, I've been with the firm though for about 2 years and some change. And my favorite case type are DACA cases. My very first case ever as a private immigration attorney was a DACA case, and I've seen that client through everything, through getting married and getting his green card and becoming a citizen. And it's really nice to watch our clients grow and go through all the different big phases of life. I love DACA.
Well, we definitely share that in common because that's also my favorite case type. I mean, no surprise there for sure. I'm sure a lot of y'all know. But I think, Crystal, you were also doing some of the DACA clinics and like all of that stuff in the community, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of DACA clinics, and I love DACA clinics. They're great. I'm sad that the pandemic's sort of taken that from us.
Yeah, I definitely miss them as well. I'm like, let's start them back up.
Yeah.
But hopefully once we're, I guess quick kind of like update. Is there any update on DACA or like where does that stand since we're on that little quick theme?
Yeah. So I think that we could get a decision pretty much any time at this point. We're just waiting to see. So the case was presented to the Fifth Circuit last month or beginning of this month. And so at this point, we're just waiting to see when they issue their decision. If it's bad news, luckily the Biden administration is already working on trying to get those rules formalized so that all the problems that the original judge had with the case, we would have fixed by formalizing the rules, by going through the process. So fingers crossed that one of these places moves a little so the DACA initials can start processing again.
Awesome. And hopefully we'll be able to host DACA clinics again. I'm really, really excited to be able to do that again with the different communities here in Austin. But today's theme is about a conditional green card, which provides 2-year residency to a person married to a U.S. citizen. During these 2 years, the couple must build record to prove a good faith marriage. So, Crystal, can you tell us a little bit more on why do people get conditions on their green card and why they only get it for 2 years instead of the regular 10 years?
Yeah, so if you end up with a conditional green card, this doesn't mean that USCIS thinks that your marriage seems shady or suspicious. They give it to everybody who's been married for less than 2 years at the time that we apply for the residency. So if you haven't been married for very long, you're going to get a conditional green card. If it's been 2 years and a day, then you won't. You'll get the 10-year green card. So it's really based on how long the couple has been married.
Is that something that you think should hold people off from applying? Like, let's say that we just got married, and what are your thoughts on that? Like, should we wait until the 2 years so we get a 10-year, or should we?
I think if you've been married already for a year and 3/4 of, almost 2 years, that maybe it is worth waiting a couple of months so that you get the 10-year green card. You don't have to go through the removal of conditions process. We could always get started on the case and then maybe wait to submit until after we've hit the 2-year mark. But if you've just gotten married, I think it makes more sense to go ahead and get the process started. The sooner you get conditional residency, the sooner that you're able to apply for naturalization too. And so that's really nice because your time as a conditional resident counts towards your naturalization time period, your time as a resident for naturalization. So.
Awesome, awesome. And I just want to give a quick shout out to those that are joining already. So thank you for joining us and for reacting to this video and giving us your hearts and your thumbs up. Just quick shout out to Ana Sofia, Leo Viera, Yunuen Alvarado, and there's actually a comment here from Yunuen saying hola and little, I'm not sure what type of flower that would be, but it's a little pink flower.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, maybe a hibiscus. That's what it looks like. But thank you so much for joining, and I hope you're sharing this video as well, and also inviting friends. Oh, Yunan says that it's a cherry blossom, maybe. But thank you so much for joining us. And then at the end of these 2 years, the couple must file a petition to remove conditions on residence known as the Form I-751. It's important to note that while a green card can be renewed every 10 years, a conditional green card cannot be renewed. And that's actually one of the common mistakes that we see, right? So what's the difference between renewing opposed to removing these conditions?
Yeah, we see this happen a lot with consultations. People come in and say, I've applied for the I-90 to renew my green card and it's been pending for a really long time. And can you guys help me figure out what happened? And then it turns out they were actually a conditional resident, and what they should have applied for is to remove the conditions on their green card. So the I-751, and it's a different application. So they won't approve an I-90 for you because that's not what you need to do. What you need to do is show that you're still married to the petitioner. So you'll need to submit it's sort of like when you first apply for your residency and you have to submit all this paperwork to show that you're in a real relationship and that you got married with the intention of building a life together. What you need to show with the conditional removal of conditions is that has continued for the last 2 years. You've remained living together, you've remained married, and show some updated good faith marriage evidence. Then they'll take away those conditions and issue you a 10-year green card at that point.
Perfect. And what kind of evidence can somebody submit to prove that the continuous marriage or that they're still living together?
So it can be things like taxes that they filed together. If your driver's licenses have the same address, if you're on the lease together, if you share bank accounts or credit cards, if you have changed jobs and you have new benefits and your spouse is one of the beneficiaries on the benefits. Those kinds of things.
Perfect. And just a reminder that you can also make comments on here and then ask us any questions that you have, either related to the theme about the conditional green card or any other question that you have about immigration. Crystal is an expert in many of these cases, so definitely feel free to ask your questions that you may have. If there's like an itch that you want to kind of like just take care of right now, now's a great time to just comment on here, and we can definitely answer it here live. So don't miss this opportunity to do so. Once again, thank you for everybody that has been joining us and commenting and reacting and giving us your thumbs up and your hearts on this video. So Crystal, how soon before the conditional green card expires should somebody start renewing their process, or I guess removing conditions on their green card?
You can't submit the application to remove the conditions until you're within the 90-day window before your green card expires. So it can't be 91 days before. It's got to be in that 90 days. And I suggest you go ahead and do it on that 90 days because it does take a while. Right now, we're seeing these applications pending for more than a year and a half. A lot of times folks will apply to remove their conditions, and before they receive that decision, they're already eligible to naturalize, or they've already naturalized. They've become citizens while they were waiting for that petition to be approved.
Cool. So then that's a possibility. Like you don't have to wait until they remove the conditions to be able to apply for citizenship? Yeah,
that's right. As long as if you're married to a U.S. citizen. So some folks are married to legal permanent residents, and that's different. You have to wait 5 years. But if you're married to a U.S. citizen, you wait 3 years. And so if you've been a conditional resident for 2 and your application's pending for a year and a half, you've already hit that 3-year mark while you're waiting on that application to be decided. So you can go ahead and apply for resident or naturalization at that point.
That's great information to have. I mean, it's pretty interesting that some people, and we have definitely seen it here at the office, like where some people apply, then they wait. What happens if their green card expires while they're waiting?
So right now they're issuing with the receipt for your I-751, they extend your green card for somewhere between, it's either 18 months or it's 2 years. It kind of depends on how long they're taking to process those applications right now. So the latest, I think, we're about 2 years. So it'd say from the date that your card expires, you've got an additional 24 months. So if you need to travel or you need to do, show work, you would show work your conditional permanent resident card plus your receipt notice for the I-751 that extends its validity.
Okay, perfect. So even if that card is expired and I haven't received a new one?
Exactly. Yeah. With those two things, with the receipt notice and your expired card, you're okay.
Perfect, perfect. And we don't see this very often, Crystal, but what happens if the conditions, the removal of condition gets denied? What could be the consequences in that case?
So one of the consequences of not filing the removal conditions or it being denied is that it could get referred to immigration court. If for some reason USCIS believes that it's not a real marriage, those 2 years you were just getting married for the green card and you haven't been living together, then they will put you in process and you'll have to go in front of a judge and fight your case at that point.
Awesome. That's why I tell everybody, I'm like, keep in mind the expiration date of all your documents. It's like driver's license, green cards, like any employment authorization documents that you have, like just remember that due date. I generally because I have DACA, so mine expires every 2 years. That date is always on my mind. And it's like my driver's license expires the same time. It's all the same date. But I also add reminders on my cell phone, like making use of the technology that we have. Just adding reminders for myself to renew it ahead of time, so that way it doesn't expire. And same thing here, it's very important so that you don't get referred to immigration court in this case, which could be a very serious thing.
Right. Yeah, it's really important to keep that in mind. There's some date calculators on the USCIS website too, where you can plug in what your expiration date for your card is, and it'll tell you the soonest date that you can apply to remove the conditions. So I would definitely set reminders for that date.
Awesome. And then we do have some questions here from our viewers, Crystal. So let me get to those. Adriana Gonzalez from YouTube. She has a question about what happens if I divorce my spouse before the conditional green card expires. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yes. So there are waivers for the joint filing requirement for the removal of conditions. So normally, if you're still married to your spouse, you both end up signing the removal of conditions. The petitioner signs saying, yes, we're still living together. Everything here is right. And you as a beneficiary sign saying the same. If you separate or divorce, actually, we need the full divorce. There is a waiver that you can file, a divorce waiver, where you show when we entered into the marriage, it was a real valid marriage. We did intend to build our life together, but things don't work out sometimes, and this didn't work out. And so you would submit the divorce decree to show and some evidence that shows that it was you lived together for some time in there. And that is possible. That's okay.
Perfect. So then so far we have joint filing in which you can remove conditions if you're still married. We have the waivers if it ended in divorce. Is there any other way to remove conditions or any other alternatives?
Yeah, so there's a couple of other waivers. So there's an abuse or cruelty waiver. If you're in an abusive relationship, nobody wants you to stay there, just to be able to file your removal of conditions later. You get yourself out, you get yourself safe, and there's a waiver for that. We just show the abuse, maybe with an affidavit, a letter from you saying what happened. And then there's also another waiver for the death of the petitioner. If something happens in those 2 years and they pass away, the death certificate can be shown and we can get a waiver in that way so that you don't have to have both signatures on the document.
Perfect. And I think we recommended, 90 days before the expiration of the green card to remove conditions. Do those 90 days still apply to those waivers, or can those be filed at any time?
No, we can file the waivers at any time. So if you divorce within the first year, we can go ahead and file to remove the conditions with the divorce waiver. If your petitioner passes away, there's abuse, just reach out.
Yeah, especially for that abusive situation where it's like we don't want anybody to stay in a relationship just because it might affect their green card status, especially if there's this waiver there. Perfect. And we have another question here from Deleted Messiah, who's always giving us very interesting questions, including this one. So when good faith marriage evidence is presented, should intimate text messages be sent to USCIS, even the very NSFW ones? And I looked up NSFW because I don't know what that stands for.
Not safe for work.
Yes, there you go. That's what I found out. So what are your thoughts on that?
No, please. I don't think that anybody, not your attorney who's reviewing it, or the legal assistants, or the officer that this stuff goes in front of. Although I understand the idea behind it. It's like, well, what else would show a good faith relationship other than very intimate discourse or pictures? But they don't want to see explicit photos or explicit text messages. There are probably other things we can show that go to the same point and are just as effective without, traumatizing anybody.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that as well. And then we do have a comment here from Saul from YouTube. And then another question from Eduardo Mendoza. Y este es en español, así que vamos a cambiarnos en español un momento. Dice, hola, tengo VAWA pendiente y permiso de viaje y trabajo. Tengo récord limpio, nunca deportación, nunca he tenido historial criminal, pasé legal al país, será seguro mi regreso a Estados Unidos. Me imagino que quiere salir con su permiso de viaje y regresar. ¿Qué es lo que recomendarías en este caso?
Pues nunca podemos decir que es totalmente seguro de viajar afuera del país. Todo el tiempo hay un riesgo porque es la discreción del oficial en la frontera para darte entrada o no, pero sí puedo decirte que si no tienes historia criminal, no tienes deportaciones, no tienes entradas, salidas, no debes tener problema. Y yo no creo que ni uno de nuestros clientes ha tenido problemas cuando no tienen historia criminal o historia negativa de su inmigración entrando otra vez con su advance parole. Si quieres alguien avisarte para revisar tus documentos y tu historia y tu expediente, llámanos, así podemos darte más información sobre tu caso específico.
Sí, por supuesto, Eduardo, y siempre es importante, nuestras consultas son gratis, así que no pierden nada en llamarnos, platicar con nosotros más en específico acerca de su caso para poderle, pues más que nada, avisar más seguro también, porque toda la información que ofrecemos aquí es en general. No podemos especificar algún caso y tampoco hace una representación de abogado representado. Entonces, llámenos a nuestra oficina y podemos ayudarle de esa manera más seguro y más confidencialmente. Thank you so much. And then this other very interesting question. Do children also get conditional green card, or is it only adults? My guess is that this is like more stepchildren, stuff like that.
They do. They get conditional green cards too, and it's dependent on the parent, like their parents' relationship staying together, or the waiver, the divorce waiver. So they don't have to file their own they don't have to present their own evidence, but they file along with their parent who has the conditional green card. And then once that one's approved, then everyone's gets approved for the 10-year.
Okay, perfect. But it's the same thing. Like there's the waivers also apply and like all of the same timeline.
Right.
All of that is also for them. Perfect. Cool. And then one other very common thing is with benefits and with like rights, like what makes a conditional green card different than a regular green card, if anything, in that sense?
The only real difference is that 2-year versus 10-year issuance. But for all other purposes, for work purposes, for health insurance purposes, for everything else, you're a resident. It's just we have one extra step. We have to get your 10-year green card after that 2 years expires. So it is also easier. The government doesn't have to show as much evidence to put you into proceedings to try to remove you from the country as if you were a permanent resident. Like once you get your permanent residency, you have to show that this person has done something since then, criminal or something like that, to be able to take away their residency and deport them. In this case, when you're a conditional green card holder, if you just never apply to remove those conditions, that's enough. Or if the removal of conditions is denied, that's enough to get you in process and be deported.
Perfect, thank you. Y Eduardo, nuestro número de teléfono es, aquí lo tengo, el 855-502-0555. And our phone number for those interested is 855-502-0555. And it's right here in the screen, like right there. So you can just call us there and we can definitely speak more privately and more securely during the consultation. And they're also free, so you don't lose anything by reaching out to us and by seeing if there's anything that we can help you with. Perfect. And then, yeah, so here's Tomas Lara joining us as well and asking for the phone number. So there it is. Thank you so much for joining. And then also want to send a shout out to Abraham Marquez, Itzel Solis, Margarita Echeagaray. And thank you so much for joining us. And then, Crystal, the last question that I have here is, what happens if I commit a crime while I have a conditional green card? Does that affect me when removing my conditions?
It certainly can, and you should ask an attorney to review your court records so that we can make sure that whatever happened, whatever you pled to, wasn't something that can make you removable or inadmissible to the country. So, and that's important. Just anytime you're charged with any kind of crime, reach out to an attorney so that you can make sure whatever you sign, whatever court paperwork, doesn't negatively impact your immigration status.
And I always like to ask about the very specific, most common criminal charge, unfortunately, the DWI. Does that affect in this process?
It shouldn't. There's a chance that if it was like the third DWI and it's a felony, or there was someone got hurt, or things like that, aggravating situations. But if it's a first-time DWI or first or second, it should be okay. But like I said, this is very general, and it all changes depending on the circumstance. And if you are in this situation, it's important to go ahead and get an attorney to review your specific circumstances, your specific plea agreement, to make sure that you won't have an issue.
Awesome, thank you so much. And then one last common question here from Miriam. She says that she's married to a citizen. Would she qualify?
Yeah, if you're married to a U.S. citizen, it's definitely, if you don't already have your green card, then you should call and see about starting this process, and we can let you know whether you qualify, and then if you would end up with a conditional green card and what that would mean, what the next steps would be after that. If you already have your conditional green card, you definitely qualify to remove those conditions. If it expires in 2 years, then you qualify for naturalization after 3, and you can become a citizen. Just reach out.
Awesome. That's really great for Miriam, because that's like the biggest requirement as being married to a U.S. citizen, I feel like, for most of the cases that we do, at least the family side.
Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. Any other information that I might have missed, or any other comments that you want to share about this removal of conditions for people to keep in mind?
No, just keep in mind that it's not the same as replacing or renewing your green card. Don't file the I-90. Talk to us if you have any questions. That's about it.
Awesome. And then Miriam is confirming that she only has DACA.
Okay. So yeah, you should call us and let's do an intake. We can always discuss how to start that family petition process and try to help you get your residency.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Crystal. It's been great having this conversation with you, and lots of useful information, I feel like, in this video. So everybody that was watching, please share it so that everybody, your loved ones, your family, your friends, that they can all get this information. Even if they don't have a conditional green card, you may never know, actually, if they do or don't. So just definitely share it so that they can get this info. And thank you so much for everybody who commented and reacted to our video. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks here. So thank you so much, and we'll see you later. Have a good week, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.